Welcome to SEAS Backstage. This is your all-access pass to design, produce, and inspire your next event. I'm your host, Troy Peters, Chief Experience Officer with SEAS Productions, here to guide you through the world of live event production. Remember to subscribe to the podcast at seaspro.com/backstage or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. We're here recording our episode towards the end of the year, so all things are lit up and beautiful. We can see the Christmas Story leg lamp behind me, one of our decor items, but you can see a lava lamp. You can see this globe that I found years ago, probably decades ago now, that lights up, that I just fell in love with because I'm somebody who has been in love with lighting my whole life. This is episode 3 of our first Foundation podcast series, where we take a deep dive into each of the aspects of production. We've covered audio and video, so today we're talking lighting. Once again, these are not lessons from what the equipment does or how to operate each piece of equipment, but more about the ideas around how we approach each discipline from a design standpoint. I'll share the basics of how we design a space with each element and the best practices and conversations you should be having with your client or your team. So let's begin. Lighting. Let there be light. My career started out in lighting as a lighting technician, lighting director in the motion picture industry. I worked on TV series and movies pretty much through the 90s into the 2000s. I loved light. My first memories as a child are very light intensive. The only memory I have of my grandfather on my mother's side is of him sitting in a small country house. He was a farmer, and he was sitting at the end of this oak table, this big dark oak table, with the early morning sunlight streaming in the window around behind him while he ate his breakfast. And I'd be the only one that got up that early to sit with my grandpa and sit there. And I remember the light streaming in that morning. And back then we didn't have dual pane windows, right? It was a single pane window. So in the winter we would cover the inside of the window with a sheet of plastic that we'd sort of like heat shrink wrap to give some barrier to the cold. And I'm sure that created this shimmery sort of diffuse light that came in and wrapped around him in his white hair. So he, in my mind, looked like an angel. Again, that was the only memory I have of him. And, he was a pipe smoker as well. So I imagine there was a little bit of haze in the air as well, creating that ray of light, that real godlike look that has stuck with me for 50 years, right? So, in film school, we learned to tell stories with light, high contrast for scary scenes, soft, glowing light for emotional or romantic scenes. I learned how to light a car on a process trailer so that the actors could be seen inside, but you could also still see the street, right? It's dark out there, it's nighttime, so how can you balance light in those situations and still tell the story? On the X-Files TV series, I learned how to do more with less light, how to make the dark embrace and sort of help tell the story, and the shadows were where things happened, right? In those kinds of scenes, those kinds of stories. We frightened, we teased, and we ultimately exposed light to those spaces so that we could see the things that were scaring us, the things that we needed to see in order to move that story along. In live events, I remember my first concerts. I remember smoke-filled arenas and moving beams of light that seemed to dance with the music under the direction of some of the world's greatest lighting designers. I remember simple spotlights that would shine onto a singer as she maybe performed a ballad and the band was in the background, and the chrome from the drums that shimmered and reflected, or the veneer off the guitar glittered throughout the room. It was magic to me. It was absolute magic. I remember cyber lights flashing across the stage that were really telling the story of the music and expanding the environment and the feeling that we were in, and this space where we were all bonding over our love of music, and light was such a big part of that. I remember one concert in particular by the Tragically Hip where all they had was a simple stage wash. This was when they were at the height of their career and they were in massive arenas across the country. Simple stage wash and a massive chandelier hanging over the stage. And it was in front of 25,000 people, but you felt like you were an intimate part of that audience. You felt like you could reach right out and grab Gord Downey and shake his hand. It was amazing. As an event designer, we start simple. Lighting a stage so that the audience can see it, and then adding elements like backlight and some uplights on the drape behind them so that we can separate them from the background. This also helps for a pretty picture if we're going to video or even if we're taking still photos. If you've got cameras in the room, you need to be able to have enough of an exposure so it's not blurry and we can see all the elements we need to see. Finally, uplights and moving lights, gobos, and more to bring it all together to tie in and bring up the theme of the event. So let's return to our usual who, what, where, when, and why as we talk through what we're doing when it comes to lighting. All right, let's begin with who. Who's the audience? That's always where we start, right? Who's the audience and who's on stage? Is this a bare bones corporate meeting or association meeting where we just need a stage wash? Board of directors are maybe presenting their annual summaries of the company. Even in this situation, do we want to play with a little bit of color? Just some simple LED uplighting is so, you can program millions of different colors and different lighting effects that might just help people know and give them a sense of place so that they know that they're at the right event. Maybe a steel or glass cut gobo in order to put the logo up on stage behind the people that are speaking on stage, just showing the organization's logo. Maybe this is a summit for a clothing or a makeup line. Knowing this, we might want to keep it simple, soft colors, soft lighting. I remember working with a famous actress who had aged gracefully and was still, in my mind, very, very beautiful. Beautiful as ever, but she was self-conscious. She wanted to always have a mirror. She would call my name and have her makeup team bring mirrors up, and she would look at every angle of her face to make sure it looked right. And in that situation, rather than using our typical spotlights or Fresnel lights, we used soft lights, big soft boxes that were warm and glowing, and the light just filled in her face so beautifully. And then we look at the what. What are we doing? If we're doing a comedy show, for example, we need to make sure that we are lighting that face, that room, that performer all the way around. We usually have side lights, something I only learned not too long ago about how important that was, but you don't want to miss an eye lift, a smirk, a smile, a frown, a wink, right? When somebody's trying to communicate with the audience in a very lively way where they're laughing and engaging and making sure that the audience is entertained. We need to be able to be aware of that. It's bright, it's broad, but you still want to make the audience feel, intimate and viewing something almost like they're watching TV. So having a stage that's got a presence with lighting on it the right way is really what we want to get to, right? That's our what. On the where, if we're on stage, it's a little bit more straightforward. A stage wash, backlights, a couple of moving lights for effect. Off stage, let's paint the room. Uplights, that are colored the theme of the event or the colors of the organization. Well-shaped gobos or other effects that can really carry the stage across and envelop the whole room. So really the room looks like you're on stage, the whole thing, right? We've got some green uplight effects on stage that are maybe a little bit more bold, a little bit more bright, a little bit more stronger, but then they sort of fade off and the same sort of color and feeling goes around the rest of the room, even the back wall, even maybe out in the foyer, giving that feeling of place and where you are in time. Some of my favorite lit events are ones where we've embraced the places that we've been in. For example, when you go to Orlando, we did an event where, Orlando is really, palm trees and jungle, right? It's the Everglades. It's all of this green and lush. So we had jungle patterns all over the walls. It looked amazing. And then one of our things, we were at a Disney property, was our team put little hidden Mickeys, little white Mickeys that were hidden amongst the jungle. Maybe they weren't white, maybe they were green, but you had to really kind of look for them and spot them in the jungle and be like, there's a hidden Mickey, because we know that's what Disney does. And we wanted to make sure that our attendees were feeling the feels that come along with being at the most magical place on earth. And when you've got a holiday event, again, one of my favorite things, those are always things that obviously we're here in the holidays, right, when we're recording this episode. And one of those things that I've loved is when we can really embrace that and we make it look like it's snowing in the room, right, with just a little bit of twinkling lights, or maybe it's gobos that are actual snowflakes that are cascading down the walls and across the tables, and really giving it this indoor-outdoor feel. When? That's the next thing, right? What are we doing? When are we doing it? What is it? When does the event take place? Early in the morning. We need to get it bright in the room. We need to wake people up. We need to get people in a sense of place, and a place that they can start learning and pulling in information from whatever's being presented off the stage. If we're doing an evening event, maybe we want to look at placing lamps on tables. I love when we can make more of a cabaret sort of feel when it's a dining event where we've got tables all around the audience. Maybe your VIP seats, so you're not putting hundreds of lamps on tables, but you've got the first, maybe several dozen that have this nice little lamp on each table. And that really just allows you to walk into a space and go, give it a wow, give it a real sense. And maybe you want to be a VIP next year and sit up where those cool tables are. But putting lamps on the tables make it feel intimate and unique. Colors evoke feeling. Warm yellows, oranges, reds for comfort, cool blues and greens for education, and bright and being awake and focused for education. The one real when you're communicating with your lighting designer or board operator is to bring up lights at the right time and bring them down at the right time. Playing a video, bringing the lights down so it feels more like a movie theater. Easier to watch the videos, easier to draw your attention from the stage to the side screens or wherever that video action is taking place. When we've got an awards program, ladies and gentlemen, the award goes to, and the lights move and swirl. We call that a ballyhoo. That's a quick movement of lights that are chasing around the room, allowing everybody to stand up and applaud, or let the people come up from where their table is to receive the award. The other things you can do are having strobing or flash effects that are happening when an effect is happening, or when you're trying to get people's attention. You see that a lot, these audience blinders that'll happen during a concert, but using those more and more for these events where we're really trying to just elevate the game with something that's usually the most economical way when it comes to audio video lighting staging is lighting. Lighting is pretty economical, just to add a couple more elements at the best price point for effect. And then the why. Why are we doing this event? Why are we bringing everybody together? Are we celebrating? Are we memorializing? This is things I've brought up, I think, in all of these topics. Keeping conscious of why we're putting these people in a room, having them together will help your production team build the best overall install for your event. Lighting can evoke all sorts of emotion. So keep in mind the why, so that you can have that adjustment and those emotions come out the way that you want them to all the way through your program. The look and feel can shift directly in the middle of a program. I remember another speaker that we had where he talked about being in a 6 foot by 6 foot or 8 foot by 8 foot cell during, I believe it was the Korean War. And as he gave his talk, we just brought the lights down ever so gently, just less and less, until he was standing in a 8 foot by 8 foot square. And you realize that is way smaller than you think when he's standing there. He's trying to find a place to lay down and sleep. That was incredibly moving. And it was working with that keynote speaker, working with our event design team, working with our client to really come up and have this effect take place. The biggest why in lighting I ever delivered as a show director, as a show caller, stage manager, was when we had a young adult come up on stage and they spoke about the first time that they came out. This was for a large corporate event that really embraced a cause every year. And then this year they were really focusing on LGBTQ rights and wanted to have somebody to sort of share the story from their main stage. As this person began talking through this story, you could feel your heart welling up and listening to what he was saying. And during the talk, I leaned over and asked our lighting director to just program all the lights so that when they were done speaking, we could have the entire room lit like a rainbow all the way around. We had uplights around the whole space that were off because of a video that played, and then just general whitewash that was on the stage. When he finally delivered the end of his talk, the entire room switched to this full rainbow effect, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was absolutely amazing. So please, please, please make sure you're having these conversations. All of this foundation series that we're doing is all about really having a place of mind when you're reaching out to your AV team, your production team, if they're in-house, if they're us, if they're whoever. Just have those conversations. It's not as simple, or it shouldn't be as simple as just going, hey, we need a stage wash. We've got somebody on stage that's going to talk. Let's make sure we can see them on cameras. Let's have a conversation about the audio, the video, the lighting, the staging, and the creative to make sure that we're bringing everything together so your audience leaves with the best possible return, getting the best possible return on investing in your event. Again, this has been Troy Peters. Thank you so much. I hope you can see that this one was a little bit more personal for me, since this was my world when I got into production. First starting out in motion picture and now being in live event production. But lighting can do so much. This has been SEAS Backstage, your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. Remember to find us wherever you like your favorite podcast, or go to seaspro.com/backstage and enjoy. Thank you so much, everybody.